because it even hit me as I was coming across this verse and all that to a certain degree, I myself was trying to conquer sin so that I can be in line with God. And the more I come in line right now, the more I realize that actually I was fighting the wrong fight. I was not supposed to be fighting to not sin, but I was supposed to have been fighting to pray and read the Bible intentionally. I'll get to that. Fighting the flesh and not the sin. Because when you think about it, the thing that fell is the flesh because of sin. It's not sin that fell. It's not sin that fell. It's the flesh that fell. So the byproduct of the falling is the reality of sin being in sync with the flesh. So instead of going head on with the byproduct, you will always be facing the ripple effect waves of the actual source instead of getting to the source, meaning you will never get to the end of it, because what you're always doing, you're always fighting against the ripple effects of what happened. And what happened is that the flesh fell because of sin. That's what happened. What's going on, man? What's good? Hey, it's been a while since I recorded in my room. It's been a long while. I've been doing everything outside, and yeah, today it's in the morning, and I just thought, you know what? Before I actually do anything and start anything, I just want to get this said and out there, because it hit me when I was reading Isaiah that let me recite it also. Isaiah 28 verse 13. So then the word of the Lord to them will become do and do, do and do, rule on rule, rule on rule, a little here, a little there. The part that I really want to emphasize on is the do and do, do and do, rule on rule, rule on rule, because it hit me deep. Because I remember back in the days when I would, you could say, self-condemn, because as much as I was in the world, from the background I come from of my moms and worship, being a pastor, this, that, and the third, right? I knew to a certain degree that there's a heaven, there's a hell. You get what I'm talking about? And I knew that God exists. I knew it. And being a son of such a person, she, to a certain degree, she taught me the idea of prayer, but the knowing how to pray, it's also even coming to me that you can get the idea of praying, but then knowing how to pray comes from a relationship, intimacy with God. Because you can have the idea of, okay, when you pray, you do this, you do that, you know, but if there's no relationship inside, like an inner reality that Jesus Christ is Lord, my Father is in heaven, like all of that, and you pray with intentionality from the heart, not just from the fact that I'm going to follow these dialects or these intellectual formations of prayer, and yeah, there we go. Nah. So I knew, and this is how my backsliding would start, because I've had multiple ones. This is how they would start. Let me just start where I could say I was at a point where I was talking to God. Not that I was following what he was saying. No, I was talking to God, meaning I would come and actually pray with intentionality. And then after praying with intentionality, because at the same time, praying with intentionality. And as I'm praying with intentionality, I would do something that my flesh lusts that's in the world. I don't want to get into too much detail on that. I would do that, and normally, since I got used to praying before I sleep, I would do that, and I would not be in the right state of mind. Or let me say this, I would allow myself to agree with the reality of the sin that I did more than the reality that Jesus Christ conquered sin. So I would, yes, pray, but my heart would not be in it. The fact that I'm praying without my heart in it, that act begins to be agonizing, because it gets to a point where it's like, you know, you're saying nothing. You know what I mean? But I would finish the prayer. Cool. Do that enough times, you could say my heart started dying to it. So instead of actually coming and praying to God with my heart, I would just do the automatic thing, which is the prayer that the Lord told technically our Father. Do our Father for the sake to just ease up my consciousness to say, you know what? I prayed, right? Cool. And then do that long enough times while I align with the reality of sin, while praying our Father every night, eventually even the praying of our Father would stop. Now I would really be in line in that reality with the sin, right? And how does this tie in with the do and do, rule and rule? Because it even hit me as I was coming across this verse and all that to a certain degree, I myself was trying to conquer sin so that I can be in line with God. And the more I come in line right now, the more I realize that actually I was fighting the wrong fight. I was not supposed to be fighting to not sin, but I was supposed to have been fighting to pray and read the Bible intentionally. I'll get to that. Fighting the flesh and not the sin. Because when you think about it, the thing that fell is the flesh because of sin. It's not sin that fell. It's not sin that fell. It's the flesh that fell. So the byproduct of the falling is the reality of sin being in sync with the flesh. So instead of going head on with the byproduct, you will always be facing the ripple effect waves of the actual source instead of getting to the source, meaning you will never overcome, you will never get to the end of it, because what you're always doing, you're always fighting against the ripple effects of what happened. And what happened is that the flesh fell because of sin. That's what happened. Like, the reality of sin inside the mind of a person is the ripple effect of what happened on the flesh, which is that it fell. And I'm talking from a point of, you actually have a certain degree of Christ coming to a point of, you know what, I know there's God, I know Jesus Christ died, I know that. That's when you're getting into the faith part. You know the faith, right? Cool. So since that's the case, fighting against the sin is running around in circles, because I'm talking from the point of what I did. Fighting against the sin is running around in circles because my life changed when I stopped fighting the sin and I started fighting my flesh. What do you mean fighting your flesh? I didn't know that I was fighting my flesh until actually now when I'm thinking about it. Actually, when I was coming across this, when you fight your flesh, okay, let me put it like this. The only one who conquered the sinful flesh is Jesus Christ. He's the only one that conquered the sinful flesh. And since he's the one that conquered the sinful flesh, you have to align yourself with the reality of Jesus Christ to conquer your sinful flesh. So if you want to be able to conquer your sinful flesh, and I keep on saying this, but now it's coming to a point of people are fighting the wrong fight, because the product of salvation is righteousness. And now people are trying to get, and I'm talking from myself, I'm talking from experience, trying to get righteousness on themselves so that they can come to God. And it never works, because if a person is fighting sin from a fallen flesh, you are technically fighting the devil in his own playground. You won't win. If you're fighting sin from a fallen flesh, you will not win. You will not win if you're fighting sin from a fallen flesh. But if you're fighting sin from a resurrected spirit, and the result, the evidence that a person has a resurrected spirit is that they are able to take dominion over their will. And before we even get to sin, take dominion over their will and say, as much as I do not feel like reading the Bible, the life is that I am now in sync with Christ through his death and resurrection. I'm in sync with him. So for me to fall in line with him, I have to align with his reality that exists in his word by humbling myself and say, okay, cool, I'm going to read the Bible and pray, right? The fight is not against sin. Listen, the fight is against sin. Yes, let me say that, right? The origin, the factory that makes the appetite, that makes the lust, is the flesh. The origin is the flesh. Deal with the flesh and the sin will be automatic. How? Listen. Aligning with reading the Bible and praying. First of all, it's going to reveal to you that you don't have the power to overcome that which you want to overcome on your own self. No man can cultivate righteousness to a point where they can come before God by themselves. I was even thinking about it that if it was possible for a man to conquer sin on his own, then there would have not been a necessity for Jesus Christ to come, die on the cross and resurrect. There wouldn't have been that. It would have been void, because man was able to do it on themselves to begin with. And think about this. If man is able to do it on themselves, then that means they don't need Jesus. And if they don't need Jesus, now it's no more a thing of I'm humbling myself before God. It's a God, you owe me. Because I did this on my own, you owe me. Matter of fact, you listen to me. you listen to me. Here's how it's going to happen. Think about it. If you are able to have that type of righteousness that you can come before God and tell him what to do, that you would not need God. You would not need Jesus Christ. Like the fact that Jesus Christ died would not even be a but. Here's the thing. Think about it. The minute this sounds, when I was thinking about it, this sounds so much like the devil, like Satan, that he would look at himself and say, you know what? I'm gonna ascend myself above the throne. How? Now look at it from this. If you don't need Jesus Christ, then you are going to put yourself above Jesus Christ. Doesn't that sound like the same thing that caused the devil to fall? And that's why when you go on it in this perspective that I am not going to do this, I am not going to do this, rule on rule, do on do, rule on rule, do on do, and then you backslide. When you backslide, you end up in a worse place than you were before you backslided the first time. You end up at a worse place. Now think about it. When Satan tried to put himself above God, when he was trying to put himself, ascend his throne, that arrogance, that pride, that ego that he himself would do that is what caused him to get cast out of heaven. Now think about you having the same intellect, the same mind of thinking on like, yo, thing is, it's a deception. I truly believe it's a deception, because if people knew, they would not go about it this way. Like, when you say, I am going to come before God with my own righteousness, the thing is, though, I didn't even think I'm coming before God with my own righteousness until I realized that I cannot conquer sin on my own accord. The time I actually, and I keep on saying this, when I started being consistent with God and reading the Bible and praying, it's when God got consistent with me. Certain disciplines became automatic. They became automatic. It's like the great, if you align your will and make it a law that I'm going to pray and read the Bible, not just the fact that I don't want to go to hell, which is what normally causes a person to backslide, because you end up thinking that it's more of a delight to sin, meaning as you go into this, there's a hole that you are allowing yourself to operate in certain type of things with the mind of saying it's not a sin, but it's a gateway to cause you to sin. And you know that.